heartbreaker, wherever you're going, I'm going your way. To drifters off to see the world, there's such a lot of world to see. We're after the same rainbows and waiting around the bend, my huckleberry friend, Moon River and wherever you're going, I'm going your way. To drifters off to see the world, there's such a lot of world to see. We're after that same rainbow's waiting on the bend, my huckleberry friend, Moon River and
An honest man lies here at rest. Can you all hear me? It was working before. Allan's playing games. We'll try again. No, we've got battery. Are you able to have a look over at the speaker, Mark? Allan's playing games on us. It's all good. Yep. I'll turn it off and on. Testing, 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 testing. Jenna, do you want to grab the mic downstairs for our box and we'll try that? It's all good. We've got a backup, so we'll be fine. We'll just hold for a couple of minutes. Testing, 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 we're away. We'll just keep that for backup over there. Right, Al, no more games. An honest man lies at rest, the friend of many, the friend of truth, the friend of age and guide of youth. Few hearts like his with virtue warmed, few heads with knowledge so informed. If there's another world, he lives in bliss. If there's none, he's made the best of this. A good afternoon and a warm welcome to you all as we gather to mourn and honour the life of Edward Allan Arthur Leeson, OAM, better known as Allan or Al to most of us. To commence Allan's service, his grandsons are going to now come forward and light some candles for his soul. Wonder what else we're going to see today. May the glow of these flames be our source of hope now and forever, letting you burn bright within our hearts, or Pops, as he was known to his grandchildren. To those that I haven't met yet, my name's Matt from Westella Funerals, and along with my wife Jenna, we wish to pass on our deepest sympathies to you all at this sad time, and would like to thank Al and Marg for entrusting us with today's proceedings. On behalf of Allan's adoring wife Marg and their loving children, Ian, Craig and Karen, and all of their family, thank you all so much for being here today as we say farewell to a beautiful man, and I feel so heartened that you've all joined with them. What an impact Al has made, and a testament of that is the turnout here today. Sadly, Al was diagnosed with cancer 3 years ago. He tried his absolute best to stay as long as he possibly could. He fought a good fight, but sadly, he came to the end of his journey on Sunday with his loving family by his side at the Burnie Hospital. It was only a few months back when I caught up with Al and Marg to arrange today, and you all know how well organised Al was. His words were that he wanted his funeral to be simple and to not drag on for too long. However, I'm not sure how we're going to go, Al, because how are we meant to condense such a rich life into such a short time? He wanted a cardboard coffin. He knew who he wanted to speak on the day. And he thought here at the Burnie Club would be a beautiful spot, a place that he loved, only if these walls could talk. There is one conversation from our catch-up that stuck with me, and that was when Allan asked me, do you see very often when couples pass away closely together because me and Marg don't want to leave each other? At that point, my heart just sunk, and it was one of those times where you just think, and I think it's a true testimony of love. To Marg, it's not going to be easy. You've lost the love of your life. He mostly brightened your days, but I know sometimes he did annoy you as well. You both created a beautiful family. You've achieved so much together, and he'll be looking over you in spirit, and he'll now be your guardian angel. So today, from me, I'll try and keep things flowing nice for you, Al. And if anyone talks for too long, I'll give them a little tap on the shoulder. We'll try to keep you proud by making it respectful and dignified. But boy, oh boy, we've got some big shoes to fill. Al's life is one that needs to be honoured and celebrated. To put it simply, he's a remarkable man in so many ways. Certainly a giver in his lifetime. Al is what we call a true community person and advocate, but above all else, a true gentleman in every way possible. His family and friends were the most important things in his life. Al was fiercely passionate about his beloved city of Burnie and making it a better place. He's easily the proudest Tasmanian that you'll ever meet. Allan has built a lasting legacy, not just in the hearts and minds of everyone who knew him, but also in all the organisations that he has assisted over the years. I now have a little extract to share with you all, written by yours truly, Allan Leeson. Allan Leeson has a background in journalism, newspaper management, local government, senior management, public relations, marketing, promotions, events, tourism, publications, airport management, Federal Senate electorate administration, corporate consultancy and community service. He had the following credentials: Fellow of the Australian Marketing Institute, Practicing Marketer of the Australian Marketing Institute, Associate Fellow of the Australian Institute of Leaders and Managers, and member of the Public Relations Institute of Australia. He's also an Associate of Music Australia and a former registered piano teacher. Allan was awarded an OAM in the 2014 Queen's Birthday Honours for services to the northwest coast of Tasmania. He is a former board member of the Tasmanian Visitor Information Network, Tasmanian Convention Bureau, West Northwest Regional Tourism Limited, Tasmanian Sporting Hall of Fame, Jet Set Travel Burnie, Australian Philippines Business Council, Australian Airports Association, Cradle Coast Authority, Cradle Coast Sustainable Regions Advisory Committee. He has a wide variety of interests, which include Rotary, and that's where I was fortunate enough to meet Al. He's a Paul Harris Fellowship awardee, City of Burnie Lions Citizen of the Year, City of Burnie Australia Day Citizen of the Year, Burnie Chamber of Industry and Commerce Life Membership. He is an inaugural inductee of the Australian Football League's Tasmanian Football Hall of Fame and founder and patron of the Northwestern Football Union 200 Club. Allan was a member of the Burnie City Council's first corporate management team, helping drive the 1990 city reinvention, which resulted in developing the port being the largest regional cruise ship destination in Australia. Management of the Civic Centre, helping start the childcare centre in Burnie known as Alexandra Beetle House. Part of Burnie 10 Committee and founding committee for Target Tasmania. A major project was facilitating Council's purchase of the local airport, and he was part of the Australian Airport Association, Tasmanian Chair and National Board member of that group too. And in retirement, Al couldn't stop. He wrote 20 books and edited over 2,100 monthly newsletters over his time for various organisations. Sorry, Al, I won't think I went on for a bit too long there, but I could imagine you saying all of that was very important information. So I'm not sure if the power's going to come on, but we'll get the other mic. We might just wait a couple of minutes for the live stream for those that are watching in case it does come back on. Okay, so our live stream's still going, so everyone's watching in, which is good. We'll see what happens next. So when we come to the end of our lives, more than often, it's the simple pleasures that mean so much. Allan loved champagne and stout as his favourite drinks, and when it came to food, it had to be Vegemite on burnt toast and a good shepherd's pie along with grilled fish. He loved classical and jazz music. Him and Marg were fortunate enough to travel extensively, but Al did hate flying, and as soon as he would land, he would literally kiss the floor or the ground of the airway when he hopped off the plane. They loved Hawaii, which they visited 6 times, and second destination being Hong Kong, along with their river cruise from Paris to Prague. Allan was passionate and proud of his Irish heritage, even travelling to Ireland to find the family castle, but unfortunately he didn't have any luck, so this is maybe something his kids can do in his honour if they haven't already. And talking of his children, it's now time that we'll delve a little bit more into Al's life and hear from his children's perspective. I invite Ian, Craig and Karen to please come forward and share their tributes to their dad.
Thank you. I think Dad's trying to give Charlie at the Civic Centre a run for his money today. He was christened Edward Allan Arthur Leeson, a name he despised, a more difficult name to the start of someone's life I can't imagine. But it was his grandmother who said that every firstborn son, apparently going back to the Vikings, would be called Edward. His mum wasn't that pleased with that, and neither was he, so he became known as Allan. But and amongst many of his friends and at his work, he was known by many different names. At the Advocate newspaper, he was known as Eel, Edward Allan Arthur Leeson, and he later became known as Squire because one of his peers said he was the only journalistic royalty that the Advocate had. He started a column with Vic Wells called Pivot Ponders, and because of that column and the antics that those two got up to, he also became known as Pivot. Amongst my friends, and largely because of his fourth son, who we call him, Stephen Marshall, he was known as Diamond Al, and that one stuck. And with his son-in-law, Dion, he became known as Ace, or Big Ace to many of his friends. My father's story is not just about him, but it's about the city, Burnie, and also about Tasmania. It's also about the people he wrote about, the men and the women who were incredible sports people and captains of industry here who defined the era of their times and put Burnie, and particularly Tasmania, on the map. The conduit for their public success and adoration was the writer who immortalised them, and that was Allan Leeson. Dad grew up in the golden age of newspapers. The newspaper, back then, was today's Instagram and Facebook, and people like Tiger Dowling, Putt McCarthy, Dexter French, Vic Wells, Danny Clark, and many more amongst them were the influences of that era. People came from all over Australia to see them perform. Dad encouraged that to happen, and in fact it was because of his lobbying and hand of friendship that he extended to these sports people that many great people appeared in our small town. He wrote about the incredible feats of these magnificent humans, so it's fitting that his final home at North Terrace would overlook his kingdom, the Cooey Oval, Burnie's own Coliseum, where battles of football, cricket, cycling, chopping, running, and every sport in between were lost and won, witnessed by thousands. It's also where us children were taken, dragged, as I may say, every weekend, where I developed a fear of heights as we climbed those rickety stairs to the press box at the top of the grandstand. Big Al loved Burnie. Burnie was the best place in the universe as far as he was concerned. He reminds me of the father figure in the movie The Castle. Why would anyone want to live anywhere else? And so at age 17, he began to build his own castle at Ocean Vista, completing it at age 21. Certainly many of the world's great sports people came to visit Dad's castle at Ocean Vista, as my parents would invite those that father wrote about into their world and shower them with their kindness and hospitality. His files are filled with letters of thanks for their hospitality, from the great journalist Keith Welsh, who the Australian Journalism Awards are named after, to many sporting greats, consul generals and stars, as well as ordinary people. World billiards champion Eddie Charlton came, and before he arrived, Dad bought a billiards table, probably the smallest in the world and the only one that could fit into our living room. And when Eddie arrived, he taught all us kids how to play pool. Cricket stars like Greg Chappell, Bishan Beatty and others would bowl overs in our backyard and teach us how to play cricket. BBC commentators like Henry Blofeld, Olympic cyclist Danny Clark, who I recall teaching how to play the song House of the Rising Sun on guitar in my bedroom because he had committed himself to perform on national Belgian TV that same very song, which he did. And he sent me a VHS tape of him doing it. Many don't realise that Dad was also an accomplished pianist. His most treasured achievement was his music diploma and his teaching degree with the Australian Music Association. He tried to teach all of us kids piano, but was so technical and precise, and the lessons so repetitive, it was about as much fun as well learning repetitive, concise classical music. So my brother and I rebelled. We learnt how to play guitar, which drove him insane. But I think he was secretly happy that we at least took up a musical instrument. My sister, of course, learned how to dance, and he was very proud, I think, of all of our accomplishments in that area of arts. Dad was defined to a great degree by his mates. He suffered FOMO, fear of missing out, which led him to participate in activities and sports that he was not entirely comfortable with. Offshore boat racing was one of them. His neighbour and mentor, Harry Cumpsty, was the complete opposite of father. Harry demanded loyalty and performance at the cost of one's personal risk. They raced those boats from Burnie to Stanley in all sorts of weather, and Dad would finish the races and be so traumatised he would barely utter a word on the way home. One race, Harry drove that huntsman so hard off the top of massive swells in Bass Strait that he hit the top of the next swell, broke the hatch off the boat, and without stopping, ordered my father to take off his seatbelt, crawl to the front of the boat, and lie on the hatch so they wouldn't get disqualified from the race. I think that was the end of my father's racing career with boats, but Harry hadn't given up. At his insistence, my father and mother took up the offshore cruising club, thinking that it may be a little less hectic. But I've lost count of the number of times us kids were transferred from our small boat to the bigger boats because of the storms, the swells, and the other problems that we encountered in those boats as we went on these so-called cruises to many parts of Tasmania. Father was a contradiction in terms in many respects. He would faint at the sight of a needle, and yet he'd get excited by a tough game of football. He never played a game of football in his life, but he is a member of the Tasmanian Footballing Hall of Fame. He wasn't shy of sports, playing basketball and table tennis, and in his capacity as a journalist, he found himself committed to recording the history of many clubs and associations who would have lost that history had he not undertaken to write many of these, often funded by his own pocket and done in his own time. He's a twice recipient of the Paul Harris Fellowship for his dedication to Rotary, and Rotary was his second family. And then, of course, there is his Order of Australia medal, and we as a family couldn't have been more honoured and happy for him to have received that, and then for our dear mother to also be granted that same award. Dad was the embodiment of love for his family, for his friends, and for his work. Nothing mattered more, and he would sacrifice his own comfort, his own finances, and himself for those he loved. His body may be with us here, but his spirit is probably giving Charlie the Ghost at the Civic Centre a run for his money, as we've witnessed tonight. Thank you all for coming and playing a part in his respects. We all have great stories about Diamond Al. I have a recording device with me, so if you'd like to tell us a story, come and see me, and we'll record that for prosperity. Dad wanted his wake not to be morbid, but to be a party. He wants it to be a celebration of his friends and family, so please feel free to clap, to laugh, to yell out, to express yourself as he did, with laughter, love, and respect. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming.
Thank you everyone for coming here to honour and remember our dad, Alsy. A truly beautiful human. His generosity was endless and his knowledge immense. Now anyone who knew our dad also knew that he had a few quirks. He had this unstoppable urge to blurt out little known facts. Even if you'd heard them a million times before. Dad would interrupt any conversation you were having to blurt out a little known fact. Hey little Leanie mate, do you know that Tasmania has? I would interject, well we all would, and tell him we just weren't interested in hearing it, Dad. His bottom lip would drop and he would give you a horrible look. You would continue on with your conversation. Dad would leave it for about 10 minutes. By then, it would just get too much for him and he would blurt out the information no matter what. He just had to get the information out. By that stage, we'd all look at each other and say, "What are you talking about, Dad?" The poor man would get so frustrated. So, 3 little known facts about Alsy. 1, he bought 3 of everything in case the maker died. 2, he hated water because the fish fornicated in it. 3, the man could burn toast on setting 1. We'll miss you so much, Dad. We love you, and yes, we'll always try to remember at least a few of your little known facts.
My dad, my hero, our hero. There are so many things that I could say about Dad, but above all, I want to say how lucky we are. Lucky to have had him in our lives. Lucky to call him ours, and lucky to have so many beautiful memories that we'll carry with us forever. We're lucky that we had someone whose advice was thoughtful and rooted in experience, whose knowledge seemed endless, and whose love was strong and unwavering. The big moments, the birthdays, the holidays, the milestones, yes, they do stand out, but it's the little things that live closest in our hearts. The way he would pass on his wisdom and facts, as Ian said, whether you ask for them or not, his pride in a job well done, and the joy he felt just being surrounded by family. As the youngest and the only girl, I'll be honest now, I got away with a lot. I was absolutely Dad's girl, and he let me be me. There was never a doubt in my mind that he was in my corner, always interested in what I was doing. And he had a way of making me feel very safe, very capable, and so very loved. While he was a hard-working man, and we've heard about his many, many accomplishments, what really mattered was the way he lived, with integrity, with conviction, and with deep love and respect for those around him. He was a wonderful father-in-law to Dion. Their relationship was very special. I know Dion will miss those nightly phone calls where they'd solve all of life's problems and probably a few of the world's, one conversation at a time. And above all else, he was the most incredible poppy and pop-pop. The way his face would light up when Jordan and Bailey came through the front door was something very special. Whether they were helping him around the farm, hanging out with him at the airport, or being taken by Dad to one of his favourite places. The Don River Railway. He loved educating them about all things planes, trains and automobiles. Every moment spent with him brought all of them joy. When Jordan was just 18 months old, Dad started taking him to McDonald's every Saturday morning. That was their time together. Sure, it was quality bonding, but also Dad discovered he could get free black coffee refills. So he'd sit there reading the paper in peace. It was a win-win all around. A favourite childhood memory of Jordan's was their special tradition called a beer with Duncan. I'm sure many of you might have remembered the old Aussie song, I'd love to have a beer with Duncan, because Duncan's my mate. Well, Dad and the boys loved that tune when they were younger. Just before happy hour each day, Dad would send Jordan out to the back tack room fridge to grab what they called a beer with Duncan, which of course was a sparkling mineral water for the boys to drink with them. That little ritual stuck, and that phrase has lived on over the years and reminding them of the fun and the great relationship they shared together. A more recent and much loved memory of Bailey's was during a family trip to Bali. The boys had convinced Pop that it was perfectly fine and completely legal to smoke his cigar in the hotel room. Dad, trusting them without hesitation, lit up and began enjoying a few relaxing puffs until the smoke alarms suddenly sounded and shrieked to life. The boys, of course, were doubled over, laughing while Dad stood there mid-cigar, slightly phased, but in his eyes his grandsons could do no wrong. They formed a beautiful bond with him, spending time together every time Mum and Dad came to Melbourne, and when they were younger, flying back during school holidays, making memories that they'll carry for life. We feel so lucky that even when we moved interstate, they still shared so much of themselves with him and were loved in return so deeply. And in the last few years, he got to experience the joy of becoming a pop to Charlie, Ollie, Billy and Harley. Affectionately known by him as the Gum Nuts. FaceTime became a lifeline and his whole face would light up and brighten the moment he saw them on the screen. These were the moments that kept his heart full, and we were blessed to see his face light up during the final days when they got to see them and Jordan's partner Ash and tell them he loved them one last time. We were very lucky to spend quality time with him in his final days. There were tears, there was laughter, and yes, a few of those classic Dad moments. His hearing was, let's say, questionable, and his filter actually took a back seat. Like when a nurse tried to offer him some water, and he said very loudly, and I mean very loudly and very proudly, "Oh God, water, I don't want to do that. You know what fish do in that." And before he could finish, we were all jumping on him, shouting Dad, trying to save the poor nurse. All the time when he was given a sip of black coffee, which we all know he was extremely passionate about, he looked at the nurse and said, "This tastes like the footpad of an ancient kangaroo." Even in those final days, we got to see his wit, and he was such a gentleman to everyone around him, thanking them for taking such good care of him. Dad, thank you. Thank you for being our rock, our example, and our guide. Thank you for showing us how to work hard, work tirelessly, think deeply, and love loyally. We love you, we miss you, we will carry your stories, your spirit, and your legacy with us always. My dad, my hero.
Thank you to our beautiful family for those wonderful tributes. I'm sure he's looking down with a proud grin on his face. I now wish to invite longtime friends Sandra and Dexter French to please come forward and share their tribute with us.
Hold it close. Ah, yes. Well, I've got to tip the bucket on you a little bit, and all those. I'll need a little bit of light too, I think.
Perhaps you better come back here.
If I'd have known, I'd have grabbed one of Allan's torches before we. I counted 8 at the back door.
Can you see?
Yeah, I can now. Well, Marg and the family have asked me to share some fun moments I've had over the 45 years with Al. I always call him Al. But where do I start with all of this? I think I'll start with Al's tack room or workshop is a good start. It was like a small Les Clark and Sons 70s hardware shop. Everything in the place, nuts, bolts, screws, spanners, torches, there's heaps of torches. And then Mark took up a bit of horse riding, and there was a couple of horse saddles. And they weren't accepted in that place, by the way. They had to come out of there, I think, at one stage. But working at Al's one day, I'd needed an extension lead, and I would have had to have walked round to the front of to get to my ute. And I said to Al, would you have an extension lead, Al? He said, is the Pope a Catholic? So away he went, and he came back with the extension lead. I have a leak in the roof around the chimney. Around the chimney area. He said, could you have a look at that? And I said, yeah, when we finish out the back, I'll have a look. And but I said, I'll have to go back to Cooey and get myself an extension ladder. He said, well, I got two. So he brought the 8-metre extension ladder around. He was a real collector. There's a mountain of stuff in that. And the next little story, Allan and I bought a couple of Repco bikes at one stage, and we rode around the Ridgely Morville Road area. And on the first day, Al arrived with the Lycras on down to my place at Romaine, and he had a bum bag on around his waist. And I said, what's in that, Al? And he said, well, some very important items. And I said, well, what's in there? He said, well, I've got my phone and the comb. And he said, and I've got some dog biscuits and a $10 note. And I said, the comb and the phone's okay. I said, what's the dog biscuits for? Well, he said, on that Morville Road, he said, those farm dogs are pretty wild. He said, if you're in front of me, he said, I'll be at the back. He said, and I can throw these dog biscuits. And he said, and they won't attack us. And I thought, well, that's sensible. And I said, well, what's the $10 for? He said, well, in case we break down, he said, I can ring a taxi. And I said, well, that is very, very clever thinking. And we never had to use either the dog biscuits or the $10, but it was already there in case of need. We picked up Al one Sunday morning. He decided that he had a Great Dane called Molly, and I had a little black Labrador, and Al suggested we take the 6 Sunday mornings and go through to Ulverston and have some dog training. And so Al came down to my place, and we put the 2 dogs in the back of the fair lane. They were sitting up in the back seat, and Marg and Sandra said we reckoned we were both out of our league trying to train the dogs. Well, as it turned out, after 6 weeks, they were right because Allan and I got the medals, and the dogs got the certificates, but it should have been the other way round. And Marg and Allan would come down home at Ridgely for a swim some nights about 7 or 8 o'clock, and we'd have a swim. And when Allan got out of the water, by the time he got to the bar, his hair was perfect. He'd already combed his hair, and I've got a feeling he used to carry the comb in the budgie smugglers. He never ever missed. And we've got a lovely little rotary story. We had a guest speaker one night telling us all about dung beetles. And they were all over Ridgely, and Allan said, well, I haven't bloody seen any dung beetles up there. And I said, well, call in on the way home and we'll have a look. So Allan calls in at Ridgely on the way home, and I said, well, look, before we go looking for those dung beetles, I said, I reckon we better get a bottle of Galway pipe out. I said, you'll see them better after you've had 2 or 3 of those. And that's what we did. We had 3 or 4 ports, and Al his eyes were starting to get ready for the beetles. And we went outside and we flipped over a few cow pads, and sure enough, there were beetles everywhere. And we were both quite excited about that, because We didn't know they were in the area, and we both had a few cows, and we didn't think there's anything like that up our way. So we went back inside, and as you do, and we finished the bottle of port off, and I think Al went home at about 12:30. But it was a great night and a wonderful experience, and the port was very nice. Time today doesn't allow me to tell any more with Al. We had so much time together. Today we're all here to remember Al, the good times and we have had with Al, his company over many years. Cheerio, mate. You're a very dear friend to me and my family, and you, all the best.
Do you need the torch?
Yes. I definitely need the torch. Well, good afternoon. Well, why start this way? Because Edward Allan Arthur Leeson OAM was a very polite man, a true gentleman and a stickler for protocol. He would have indeed commenced in this manner. I stand here to praise this man, friend and local government colleague who has given so much to so many people and to the Burnie community. Allan would have to be Burnie's #1 volunteer, dedicating so much of his time and expertise in promoting Burnie wherever he was and with whomever he was with. Allan, born and educated and who worked all his life in Burnie, was a person with many skills, and with his quiet humility and his unwavering dedication to the city of Burnie, he's left an indelible mark on the broader community. His family suggested that perhaps a move to the Big Island might be warranted when he became ill. He did say yes, I'll think about it, but he did state to Marg, Dexter and I that he could never leave his beloved Burnie. He was indeed a man of Burnie, for Burnie. Allan was a great family man, and being an only child, Allan so loved the company of his family, his children, his grandkids, and his great-grandkids, who all very much enjoyed being with Allan. Christmas will not ever be the same for the family. Allan was a man with wonderful attributes, many unknown to the wider community. He was a good pianist, as has been stated, a player of the big organ in the Church of England church, and one who played the bagpipes. On my vacuum cleaner, that was. In memory of my Scottish mother, we had enjoyed, I might say, a few whiskies to enable him to do that. Burnie has been so lucky to have had such an iconic character with great talents. He had a clever and visionary mind, a true logical thinker. He was a wordsmith and a journalist who trained many cadet journalists, and author of so many books which mainly focused on community groups, so that their history would never be forgotten. Allan left the Advocate to become a member of the new Burnie Council corporate management team consisting of 5 managers. Allan became manager of cultural services, which covered the Civic Centre, the Art Gallery, the museum, tourism and promotion. Today, I do believe 5 people would need to be employed to cover these 5 important cultural areas in his cultural precinct. Allan loved to be totally in charge, but not quite so when I was mayor. He had to do what I asked him to do. Allan was a person who could focus on whatever a situation might be, and I remember clearly working with him to establish succinct and very precise, perfect wording of many media releases during the pulp mill strike. Allan, taking his cultural services to the limit, placed statues and busts of famous people around the Civic Centre, and he established a boardroom full of council's memorabilia and created a room called the Bridge for guest artists to enjoy a relaxing and quiet area within the building. I will miss our discussions about how we would fix problems locally but think globally, and we could think and work outside the square very easily after a few quiet wines. Trips away with Allan and Marg to Penang, Hawaii, Canada, USA, the Grand Canyon, Hong Kong, the Mediterranean were exhausting, but at the same time always exhilarating and informative, with Allan having done his research wherever we were, and we know all about that. He was, of course, in charge of the combined money purse for our eats and drinks, and he gave us a budget statement, verbally, each morning, how much we had left, to the point that on the Queen Victoria cruise, he was happy to inform us that all the things that we could purchase in the many shops on the liner. He was a natural-born researcher. Well, I pluck these words from the Lord's Prayer, on earth as it is in heaven. Why? Because, can you hear that noise, that banging? Of course, it's Allan rearranging the furniture, the sculptures and the statues in heaven, as he once did at the Civic Centre here on earth. He's probably ready to commence tidying out and sorting the books in the tabloids. Rest peacefully now, Allan. You were so brave and you fought a long and good fight with the help of your dear wife and carer, Mark.
I now wish to invite Richard Charles to please come forward and share a tribute with us.
Hi Allan, you must think it's time for me to do my own speech. It's such an honour and a pleasure to be asked by Allan to speak today to tell my story about our journey together. Back on October the 2nd, 2014, I was honoured to join Somerset Rotary. This changed my outlook on life. The club was full of amazing members who became my mentors. But there was one member, Allan Leeson, who I had never met before. What Allan has done for my life is amazing. The letters, annual reports, grants, confidence, knowledge, and what Allan taught me about Rotary was the reason of my 3 terms as president of Somerset Rotary. There were many stories about Allan and I at Somerset, and one was Peter Truman, who was president at the time. He hadn't been able to do his annual report. So on Saturday morning, Allan and myself, mainly Allan, had the report done by that night. After leaving Somerset Rotary, Allan Leeson, Lee Newman, Burnie Rotary and myself were instrumental in setting up Burnie Satellite Club and Burnie West Rotary, of which I have been president of both. This was Allan's joy that I had been president of 3 clubs. Without Allan taking me through this Rotary journey, I wouldn't be speaking here today. There was also lighter moments, of which Margie was always part of. One Sunday afternoon, I needed Allan and Margie to do a grant for the Burnie Council. Had to be in by next morning. Well, as Margie would know, that was an experience. Everything went wrong. So in the end, it was put in an envelope and I put it in the council box and we got the grant. Talk about a knowledgeable man Allan was. My wife and I were going to Hong Kong. Well, after finishing with Allan and Margie, we knew everything about Hong Kong before we got there. I must say that a few weeks ago, Allan and Margie were taken on 2 trips to Devonport to the Eye Hospital in the Burnie West Rotary Club's disability van by fellow Rotarian Les Agar and myself. And Les had never met Allan before, but his words for Allan were amazing. This project Allan just loved. And I must say, every visit to Allan's and Margie ended in 1, 2, 3 glasses of wine, and just as well I wasn't far from home. Our stories could go on and on. And I must thank Margie and the family, Matt and Jenna, for allowing me to view Allan today and say goodbye to my second father. The thing I must say is most of you have enjoyed the journey of Allan a lot longer than me, but I must thank Allan for everything he's done for all of us. Allan, I love you forever.
Thank you. And last but not least, a good mate, Bob Calvert, if you please come forward.
Thank you. How's your light going?
Still got battery.
You've got enough batteries left?
I do.
Good stuff. Thank you. Well, very honoured for the fact that when I think back to learning and meeting Allan, he was 41 and I think I was about 30. I arrived here, Kay and I, on the northwest coast in 1982. Didn't know a soul, and I went to the local Rotary Club. I was already a Rotarian in Hobart, and a very young one, I might admit. Not many of us left, these young ones these days. Anyway, so who do I meet as I walk through the door? And it was a lovely mate of ours, a fellow called Bevan Wiley. So Bevan takes me over to the bar, as you did and as you do, and introduced me to a couple of charter members. One was Alsy Leeson and the other one was Harold Tiger Dowling. Should I say that they had such an amazing effect on my life, not to mention my liver. As I was introduced, and they said, well, would you like to say a few words? And I said, yes. I said, that'd be very good. I said, I've come from a southern farming family that grow the best potatoes in the world. They're called pink eyes. I also drink, you can see, listen to the noise. It was back then, it was the same. And I said, and I also drink the best beer in the world, and that's Cascade. Allan came up to me later, he said, if you want to stay on the northwest coast and you want to be part of this club, don't ever mention pink-eye potatoes again and learn to bring bows. The other thing is that we became an extremely close group of friends. I'm not quite sure what it was, whether it was the coaxing of the Bogues beer or whatever, but during and through Rotary was the main conduit. My birthday falls in January. January happens to be one of the warmer months of the year. So it became the standard that they would always come down to Cascade Road where we lived and we would have a birthday party. Now they become synonymous in the fact that somehow it started off with a very warm day and spraying ourselves with the hose. Every year it got to a different thing. It got to water pistols. Allan and Marg always had the biggest and the best water pistols. And you know what they said? They said, oh, they're for our grandkids. We just want to test them out. Another occasion was about in 2005. Kay and I were working in the United States at the time, and anyway, we got a phone call, as you do with all of that difference of 17 hours time difference. We're having a party. Oh, good on you, that's nice. Where are you? At your place? Well, hang on, we're over here. What about you? No, we're okay, we're here, thank you. So I got some photos sent through, and sure enough, there they were, at my house, or our house, having the barbecue, and completely annihilating my Penfold stock. You can always say Al was in charge of all those sorts of things. And here's another one. Al's 50th birthday party now. Who can remember that? Yeah. Well, Al decided, we don't know why, but he had this particular lady playing the organ or the piano. Now, this lady, she was as dull as a wet day in Ridgely, Dexter. You got no idea. She was absolutely terrible. I hope she's not here today. Anyway, she was playing this, and you know what happened? So I think it was Craig or one of his friends decided to spike her orange juice. She went from Beethoven to the Beatles and the Beach Boys, and around 15 chords. Al never ever understood to this day how she ever did it, but he never had it back. Okay, so fast forward to 2021. Rotary Tasmania decided it needed a book. It was coming up to 100 years of Rotary service in Tasmania. Now, 100 years means that there's two clubs, one's in Launceston and one's in Hobart, all formed within a couple of days of each other. And you could just imagine trying to work out, I was district governor at the time, I had to sort of try and keep the peace with the parochial north and south, and said, well, nobody in Launceston is going to write the book, nobody's in Hobart's going to write the book, I've got a guy on the northwest coast. So I went along to Al. I said, would you be interested in writing a book, Al? 100 years of Rotary. I'm onto it, little Bobby. I'm onto it. She's not a problem. Well, of course, he was just absolutely thrilled. And I went trialling through my emails. A bit like Al, I tend to keep a lot of things. And there was an email there in June 2021. And Al said, I'd be delighted to be part of this project leading into the writing and publication of a centenary book of Rotary in Tasmania. That is, if I am still upright and lucid. Well, we got to the stage where the book was written, and Alsy and I and Marg, we'd spent hours either on the phone or backwards and forwards with emails, and I said to Al, 200 pages? He rang me one day, he said, Bobby, you're up to 240. I said, Al, we got to cut it back. Anyway, backwards and forwards it went. We got it done in the end. Just before I rang him one day, I said, Al, we're about to go and get it published. Don't, little Bobby, don't, no, I've got a few more things to put in it. Sorry, Al, it's gone to the publishers. Suffice to say, we were absolutely proud from Rotary's perspective to have Al and Marg at the launch, which was only in June or May this year. We were able, with the help of Ricky Charles, to have him along there to a standing ovation. So that was a great farewell for Allan on behalf of Rotary. Where am I up to, mate? How's your...
Nearly about here.
There we are, we're just about there. Yeah, it was. It's actually a masterpiece. It's going to be online sooner or later, but there's a lot of Rotarians now are enjoying that. One of those things, I said to Margie, I said, now what's going to happen? What's going to happen, I said, if something does happen to Al and we don't have the manuscript finished, because it was all done electronically. Margie said, got a little plan for you. She said, what we'll do, she said, we will have this USB, and if anything happens to Al, she said, you'll know that I've got hold of it. But she said, we need a plan B. And I said, what's the plan B, Marg? She said, well, if I happen to fall off the perch around the same time, are you ever going to find that USB? And I said, well, what are we going to do? She said, it's going to be in this little purse, Bobby, and we're going to put it in that little pocket over there. She said, and you come straight into the house, if anything happens, because the bloody kids will get it and they'll throw everything out. Suffice to say, we got it there in the end, Marg. Okay, all right. So I'm just going to finish off with the fact that it's funny you should say that, Sandra, about the Lord's Prayer, because I think, as Dexter used to say, is man around the streets? Well, we've got a man up there at the pearly gates. And I'm certainly, upon arriving at the pearly gates, St Peter said to Al, we've been looking at your credentials and we think you're going to be just the man to rewrite the Chronicles. After all, we've got 2,025 years. You can imagine, Al, I'm onto it. Thank you very much. Good luck, Al.
What wonderful tributes. It was now going to be time to reflect back on our life through a photo montage. However, the power is still out. But for those that are staying for a drink afterwards, if the power's back on, we'll play it downstairs. And on the live stream, I think, Callan, we can edit it and put the photo montage into that. So if you want to afterwards, just have a look on our Westella website and follow the prompts, and you'll be able to look through the montage then. But instead, Mark has picked out a beautiful song that we are going to listen just a couple of minutes of reflection time. Maybe think in your minds of the beautiful images that you have of our. Thank you.
I wanted you for life, you and me in the wind. I never thought there'd come a time that our story would end. It's hard to understand, but I guess I'll have to try. It's not easy to say goodbye. For all the joy we shared, all that time we had to spend. Now if I had one wish, I'd want forever back again. To look into your eyes and hold you when you cry. It's not easy to say goodbye. I can remember all those great times we had. There were so many memories, some good, some bad. Yes, and through it all, those memories will last forever. There's peace in where you are, maybe all I need to know. And if I listen to my heart, I'll hear your laughter once more. And so I've got to say, I'm just glad you came my way. It's not easy to say goodbye.
I now have some words from Al back to you all here today, a poem that he wanted me to share with you all, and it's called Miss Me But Let Me Go by Christina Rossetti. When I come to the end of the road and the sun is set for me, I want no lights in a gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not for too long, and not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that we once shared. Miss me, but let me go. For this is a journey that we all must take, and each must go alone. It's all part of the master plan, a step on the road to home. When you are lonely and sick of heart, go to the family and friends we know. Laugh at all the things we used to do. Miss me, but let me go. Today, Allan's life has been honoured in a beautiful and vibrant way. And now it's time for his spirit to fly free with no more suffering. I'll shortly say some closing words, and then we'll take Al downstairs to the hearse, and there'll be a time of placing some petals on his coffin where you can all say your own personal goodbye. And then as we're leaving, if you can all please give Al one last clap as the hearse drives off, a last clap to clap Allan off the field one last time. Then he'll take his final journey to be privately cremated. You all have memories and stories of Allan, and that's why getting together after a funeral is important, to let his legacy live on. Marg and family warmly invite you all to please stay and have a drink with them in Al's honour. Downstairs there'll be refreshments and the bar will be open. Al's family wish to sincerely thank each and every one of you for your attendance here today, for your love, care and support shown to them. It's greatly appreciated. A special thank you goes out to all of those who have travelled Australia-wide to be here, and also those who are watching in via our live stream or at a later date. And the biggest thank you goes out to Dr. Boulay and his staff, together with the team at the Ulverston Specialist Clinic where Al underwent his treatment, and to all the amazing staff at the Burnie Hospital for their loving care of Al and his family, and to the Burnie Club for all their support. It is now time, ladies and gentlemen, for this much-loved husband, father, grandfather, friend and community icon to take his final journey. We'll now recite the Lord's Prayer for those who would like to join in. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Would you all please stand? Allan, go forth from this world knowing that you are loved beyond measure and that you'll be missed more than words can ever say. All of us here are so thankful for having you part of our lives and for the years of love, friendship, good times and many happy memories. You have certainly filled your niche and accomplished your tasks. You have left this world a much richer place than you found it. With the greatest respect, we say our final goodbyes. Tenderly and lovingly, we commit Edward, Allan, Arthur, Leeson, OAM, to be cremated, earth to earth, ashes to ashes, and dust to dust. Al, you live in the hearts of everyone you touched. Thank you for all that you were and all that you gave. And so, with love, we shall leave you in peace, forever cherished, forever missed, and always in our hearts.
in my heart.
You are the love of my life. Give me reason to live. You taught me how to respond. With you is where I belong. No one's ever touched me. Find my way to touch me. People such a lifetime to find what we have. You are the love of my life. One thing that's good in this life. I'll spend the rest of my days. Rest of the love of my life.
Okay, let's go. Slow.
My love, there's only you in my life, the only thing that's right.
My first love, your every breath that I take, your every step I make.
And I want to share all my love with you. No one else will do.
And your eyes
two hearts that beat as one. Our lives have just begun. Forever, I'll hold you close in my arms. I can't resist your charms. I'll be a fool for you, I'm sure. You know I don't mind. Oh, you know I don't mind. 'Cause you mean the world to me. Oh, I know. I found in you my endless I'll be that fool for you, I'm sure. You know I don't mind. Oh, you know I don't mind. And yes, you'll be the only one. 'Cause no one can deny this love I have inside, and I'll give it all to you, my love, my endless love. Lady, I'm your knight in shining armor, and I love you. You have made me what I am, and I'm yours. My love, there's so many ways I want to say I love you. Let me hold you in my arms forevermore. You have gone and made me such a fool. I'm so lost in your love, and oh girl, we belong together. Won't you believe in my song? Lady, for so many years I thought I'd never find you. You have come into my life and made me whole. Oh, forever
Let me wake to see you each and every morning. Let me hear you whisper softly in my ear. In my eyes, I see no one else but you. There's no other love like our love. And oh yes, girl, I'll always want you near me. I've waited for you for so long. Oh, lady, your love's the only love I need. And beside me is where I want you to be. Oh, 'cause my love, there's something I want you to know. You're the love of my life, of my life. You're my lady. You're my lady. I wanted you for life, you and me in the wind. I never thought there'd come a time that our story would end. It's hard to understand, but I guess I'll have to try. It's not easy to say goodbye. For all the joy we shared, all that time we had to spend. Now if I had one wish, I'd want forever back again. To look into your eyes and hold you when you cry. It's not easy to say goodbye. I can remember all those great times we had. There were so many memories, some good, some bad. Yes, and through it all, those memories will last forever. There's peace in where you are, maybe all I need to know. And if I listen to my heart, I'll hear your laughter once more. So I've got to say, I'm just glad you came my way. It's not easy to say goodbye.